Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Steven Brown, and in today's video, are the Toronto Maple Leafs tough enough to win the Stanley Cup? Because Don Cherry doesn't seem to think so, but Ron MacLean looks like he wants to know a little bit more about the subject, so let's get right into it. And we all know what Don is really talking about when he says that the Maple Leafs are not tough enough to win the Stanley Cup. We know what he is referencing when he goes on national TV on the first Saturday of the hockey season and says that. We all know that he's talking about Boston. Are we really ready to open up that big, old, nasty smelling can of worms again? I mean, I wasn't really doing videos back then, and if I was, maybe I wouldn't be able to be as composed as I am right now, believe it or not, even though I am shouting a little bit. But in order to really talk about this, we need to provide some context by going back in time a little bit. And maybe some of you would start with 2012, 2013, but I'm not going to, just because there aren't any players on the team right now that were in that game. Hard to believe that it was 6 years ago. Anyway, Morgan Riley was just not old enough to be on that team just yet. So if we're going to talk about the 2017-2018 collapse to the Boston Bruins, it's really important to note that Frederik Andersen had his bright spots in that series, but overall, he wasn't that great. Austin Matthews had a shooting percentage of around 3%, and I don't think that he would replicate that ever again in a playoff series, no matter how hard he tried. Jake Gardiner with the... Okay, yeah, no, we're not getting into that. But that 17-18 team also didn't have John Tavares on it, so I don't really know if that's too relevant to the situation that we're in now. So talking about last year's team is probably going to give us the best objective answer. But in order to talk about that team objectively, you need to consider everything that was going on. First of all, Frederik Andersen played absolutely out of his mind. Austin Matthews came to life and really carried the team on his back with a couple of huge goals, one in particular in Game 5. John Tavares and Mitch Marner, their line wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything amazing. But I mean, considering that they were hard matched up against the Bruins' top line most of the time, they did an okay job. First of all, the Maple Leafs had a bunch of injuries to a bunch of players on their team. And yeah, it's the playoffs. Everybody has injuries. So it's not really that much of an excuse for losing. But when you're talking about what Don is, and that's changing the identity of the team, I think it would be crazy to do that when the team just wasn't healthy. I mean, Travis Dermott had a shoulder injury that he still hasn't recovered from to this day. Jake Muzzin didn't look like Jake Muzzin. Jake Gardiner, we all know, had the notorious back injury that really plagued him for the second half of the year. And Zach Hyman was killing penalties on one leg. And I mean, for me, that's enough to just call the situation unfortunate and it's a wash and to just dust their hands with it. But for the purpose of this video, there's a lot more stuff to unpack. But I think that this problem in hockey runs a lot deeper than just Don on national TV, because I think a lot of us have lost sight on what it actually means to be tough in hockey, and the Bruins are kind of the perfect example for that. Is Brad Marchand punching Scott Harrington in the back of the head after the whistle showing toughness? Is Milan Lucic a couple of years ago spearing somebody in the groin showing toughness? Is Jake DeBrusk pushing Patrick Marleau into the stanchion showing toughness? Is Charlie McAvoy slew-footing people showing toughness? Look, and this is not me saying that everyone on the Leafs is incapable of committing a dirty play. And obviously, this is a strategy that Boston has found that they could exploit, and they've been doing it for years. But should they be getting away with it? I don't know, because if you look at the way that hockey culture has been evolving, those are plays that the league wants to eliminate. And if you look at this Toronto-Boston series from last year, this one series specifically, you can really see where the league is just missing it. Game 2 in that series, for me, left a more sour taste in my mouth than what Game 6 or Game 7 did, and it was because of the way it was officiated. And I'm not being one of those fans that are blaming the refs for my team losing. I just really didn't understand the philosophy behind a lot of the calls. And if you're just looking at the Nazem Kadri cross-check from that game on Jake DeBrusk, I don't think that you get it. Because maybe it's my Maple Leafs bias that's kicking in here, and maybe I'm not remembering the events right, but it started with one team doing something, and then another team retaliating, and eventually the layers just kept piling on top of each other until things exploded. And when you let the inmates run the asylum, chaos happens. So I'm not excusing Nazem Kadri's behavior by any means, but what I am saying is the way that that game was officiated fostered for something like that to happen. And I don't know what happened to that referee group after that game, but they should not have been allowed to do another game in those playoffs or any more moving forward. So was the reason why that the Maple Leafs lost to the Bruins last year them not being tough enough? No. Hockey's a game where there's very little, if any, parity at all between the teams. And when you stack up a couple of injuries and a suspension to a key player, then that's what really makes the difference. And what I think a lot of people don't understand is that if Don Cherry got up on national TV and just said that it was an unfortunate set of events that led to the Maple Leafs losing to Boston last year in the playoffs, and they're gonna be okay, folks, then I don't think that he would be on national TV for very much longer. So the problematic thing for me is that there's actual people that watch these weekly segments and believe everything that he says like gospel. And then you talk to people, and then you get people saying that they should trade Nylander. And then there's people like me that have to do videos that are 7 minutes long with comprehensive background research defending the guy because everybody in the arena turns it into a witch hunt every single time he touches the puck. Oh, my head. And for the purpose of entertainment, I have to indulge myself in conversations like this. But just between you and me, let's just promise to enjoy this team for what it is. After all the contract negotiations and everything that we've been through, let's just enjoy it because the team is really, really good. And if we allow ourselves to enjoy it, we'll see that too. So make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, don't let anyone else ruin the things that you like.